Across the Park podcast is proud to be sponsored by Globe Gas and Heating. For the best kitchen and bathroom renovations, boiler servicing and repair, and central and underfloor heating in the Northwest, head over to globecentralheating.com and quote Across the Park for a free quote. Hello everybody, welcome back to Across the Park podcast here at the Podcafe studios in Liverpool City Centre. My name is Ian Mills, joined by my colleague in the Across the Park podcast, the brains behind the podcast, the looks behind the podcast, Gary Judge. Judgy, how's it feel to be back in the Podcafe? Seems like it's been a while.
Some intro that. Yeah, it has, hasn't it? I think the last time we were in here, was it me with someone else?
Joe Thomas was in with you.
Joe Thomas, of course, yeah. But yeah, it's been a long time. It's been a great few weeks for the club. Obviously highly emotional, but yeah, positive. You know, some positive results on the pitch, and again, it looks like we're moving in the right direction off the pitch. So
we're going to talk about that. This is the season review show. We're not going to do a breakdown of the Newcastle performance. We're not going to do a breakdown of rumours. We're looking back on the 24-25 season, the season review. Before we do, we're recording this on a Wednesday. Like me and Judgy, I'm sure the Evertonians watching this were trying to ignore what was going on Monday. It quickly became very frightening, very concerning. So me and Judgy just want to just send our love and our best thoughts. We're over the moon at the minute that there's been no fatalities. That's the main thing, and there's not another tragedy cloud hanging over our city. There are a company called Be Free who are offering some free support for anybody who needs it, and I've retweeted that on Across the Park PC on Twitter. But Judgy, we just wanted to send our love and thoughts, didn't we?
Absolutely. I mean, you know, you put something out on our socials, I put something on my own socials. It was obviously a massive day for Liverpool, as you say. You know, from a rivalry point of view, the Blues were trying to stay out the way. There's as usual loads of banter flying about, but it is banter, and that's where it ends. We had so many friends, family that were, you know, part of that parade, that were celebrating it, and we've got nothing but love for them away from the banter, and to see what went on was just frightening. And obviously there was a lot of hours of anxiety and worry over, you know, as you say, potential fatalities, and fingers crossed that doesn't end up being the outcome, and the Reds can get back to celebrating what was a great season for them.
Yeah, we're going to move on to our season now. But like I said, Across the Park PC, we have retweeted anything that you need from the Be Free guys in support of that. Can you take yourself back to last summer? I know that's a difficult thing to do because things have happened since, but I was quite optimistic. I saw us doing a bit of business. I heard Dyche was going to be a baller. Lindstrom come with a little bit of a reputation from his days in Germany. We ended the previous season quite well, although we seem to have this habit under Sean Dyche of going through patches, but we ended it quite well. I was quite positive, and then Brighton came and hammered us on the first day. Tottenham hammered us. Mason Holgate's in the squad. Neil Maupay's in the squad. Can you recall how you felt going from maybe some optimism to it was a bad start, wasn't it?
Yeah, I agree with you. I was relatively optimistic. I think what most Evertonians were basing that optimism on is, as you say, some good runs. Relatively, we had a pretty stable defence, which is what you expect under Sean Dyche, but there were players coming in that were more attacking, and maybe there was a bit of a sign that he was going to be more progressive and we were going to be more progressive. That was tempered with, and I don't know if you remember this, I was saying in the shows leading up to the season that you should expect a slow start. That's generally what you get with Sean Dyche teams, because they get worked so hard in pre-season, and we could see it in some of the games. He looked really leggy, and that's what we've seen in the first few games of the season. And although that maybe was to be expected, with that, it obviously, it just, you know, got us moving in the wrong direction, and then you had Paddy Power paying out for Everton to be relegated. There was all, and it started to become, you know, more of a negative place, and you know, there was the flip side of the coin now. You know, this team can't score goals, and if we can't score goals and we're not keeping clean sheets, who was it? Branthwaite was out, wasn't he?
He played Keane
Yeah.
over O'Brien.
Branthwaite was missing as well, so we were missing a big part of that defence. As you say, Keane has a nightmare. O'Brien wasn't playing. Suddenly all those bright signs, Lindstrom struggles, didn't really get up to the pace.
Then we seen Lindstrom outside the grounds after the game, and he was like, I'm dying to play.
About 5 games in, he wasn't really getting minutes, wasn't he? And he basically says, well,
tell a manager, you want to see me?
Yeah. So, there was a lot of worrying signs, wasn't there? I think coming out of the summer, which, as you say, started with some optimism. I still remember after the Brighton-Tottenham game thinking, again, no Branthwaite, tough pre-season, we'll be all right, we'll turn the corner, but it took a little longer and didn't really get going the season, did it?
Yeah, and then if you remember back-to-back in September, we were 2-0 up against Bournemouth at home and Villa away, and we couldn't manage it. And I remember you on this podcast, and you said, I don't think they're coached to be what if we're 1-0 up. What does the shape change? Does the mentality change? I think it's a plan A, and it just didn't get going this season with Dyche, did it? No,
and that was that. Them games for me provided more alarm bells than the earlier games, because what you used to get with the Sean Dyche team is you go in front, you stay in front, and you see the game out. But yeah, as I was alluding to at the time, it looked like the players didn't know what to do when that momentum was shifting, and there wasn't any kind of, any kind of plan B of how to remanage that game and maybe go again. And once the momentum shifted and we were conceding goals, we were only ever going to lose those games. And that one at home, that Bournemouth one, really hurt, and it was so late. It
was Bournemouth away was the final nail, wasn't it?
Yeah,
and it's funny because we'd just been on a bit of an okay run in December. We drew with Arsenal, drew with Chelsea, drew with Manchester City, and then it just unravelled. I don't think we were shooting. I think the stats on our shots were the lowest XG. Do you remember Monday Night Football? Jamie Carragher done this thing, and we were bottom of moving the ball forwards.
I think that again, though. I think that's regardless of the manager. I'm not saying it wasn't the manager, because the manager is the person who can have the most influence on the players before they go on the pitch. I think it was just also a sign of a real lack of confidence. The players thought, they'd had those games early in the season where they were scoring goals and were still losing, and they thought we've got to just be solid for the whole game. And I think that was the message from the manager, to be fair. Look, you've got to keep clean sheets, and then the minute you concede, you're thinking, what do we do now?
That was it. When we conceded, we thought, well,
it was over. Yeah, we were buckling. So yeah, you're right. I do remember that Monday Night Football one, and that was obviously doing the rounds, and
that tempered the flames, didn't it? Everyone was retweeting it then.
Yeah, it is, and I think the manager could feel it then. He admittedly, he's come out and spoke about it since, that he'd run out of ideas and he didn't feel like the players were buying into what he was asking them to do, and that is exactly what we were seeing as fans.
Yeah.
And it's actually rare it comes out like that, isn't it? Because we were literally, I know the fans, our fans in particular, are always very vocal about the way they feel the team should be playing or should be doing, but there's always little bits that go on behind the scenes. You think, I didn't realise that, but it was pretty much as we were seeing it, and as everyone was seeing it. The players were not having it. The manager ran out of ideas, and that's the beginning of the end, isn't it?
It felt like going to games was a bit like, I don't really want Everton to be at home this weekend. I could think of something better to do. And then you think of what we've just been through. We'll touch on Goodison. This year was about getting your photos, and can you take your daughter to one, can you take your son to one, can you take your dad, your grandparents to one, and it was all about Goodison being special, and it just felt flat. It just felt so flat. And then we have Peterborough at home in the third round of the FA Cup, and on our commute, TalkSport tells us that the manager's been sacked. Can you remember how you felt at the time? Were you happy or concerned? Because the unknown then, isn't it? And we're 16th.
I was shocked at the time, and I still baffles me. And obviously there's all kinds of stories as to why it happened that way. The story I heard, which made most sense, is that a couple of nights before that, I think it was the Monday night maybe, that Sean Dyche and his representative had met with Kevin Thelwell and someone else senior at the club, and basically said, look, this is the end of the road for us.
They're not listening to me.
Yeah, they're not listening to me. I don't know where else I can take it. The club took that on board, and I think we're fairly happy to take his resignation. And then the delay was around the compensation. The next day, the club had official correspondence from Sean Dyche's reputation to say this is what we expect, as in we expect him to be paid at the end of the season. And the new owners, obviously the Freakins, were not long through the door. We're like, no, we're not. This is not the tone we're going to set here. That people demand who actually want to walk away from the club what they're going to get. So that was a bit of a rationale around the time. But yeah, I think just I quickly moved past that to go, who's in charge then? And you know, to have Leighton Baines and Seamus Coleman.
It feel good, wasn't it? That
was, yeah.
Because they'd done it quite cleverly a few years back with Duncan. They read the room and said they just need someone who they relate to here, and to see Baines and Coleman was nice. But I remember going home that night, just putting Sky Sports News on whilst the wound down, and it's between Moyes and Graham Potter. Did we make the right choice?
Well, I think the results and the mood of both clubs tells you the story, doesn't it? There's been so many times in our recent history, you just referred to Duncan then, that we needed a certain personality. We needed someone with a certain skill set. Sounds like I'm talking about Liam Neeson here and taking a certain set of skills. But yeah, there's a time and a place for certain people, isn't there? And you know, as we got that with Duncan, I think we whether we like it or not, we got it with Allardyce when he first came in. We needed that person at that particular time for different reasons. Moyes come in and he knew the job, but you know, Graham Potter I think would have seen it as all this project, and he needs to do this and he needs to do that, and I think it would have been too many moving parts to get that team to operate the way that Graham Potter would have wanted them to, and he's seen that at West Ham as well. Moyes is the type of person who can come in and go, let's just get some energy going, let's just do the basics well, and let's just get the players happy, and let's make it a place that they want to come and work again. And I always refer to footballers in general and football as an industry as just being so similar to a normal place of work. You can't overthink it. The people need to be happy to be operating at the best. And football as a game is quite simple, and it's about trying to stop your opposition from scoring and trying to keep the ball as often as possible in their half of the pitch. And he does that so well. I think Moyes, when he's happy and when he's got his players behind him, and clearly the players were rock bottom. You could see that and hear that from the quotes that were coming out, from the way they were behaving, from the videos and training. You could see the difference.
Yeah. A cloud was over the place at the end of Dyche, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. And I think like you hear from some of the, sometimes, you know, the silence is deafening, isn't it? And you weren't getting players flocking to say, thank you, Sean, you know,
stick with
really
us,
appreciate it, blah, blah, blah. There was nothing. Very few people said anything about the fact he'd left. And that spoke volumes for me. But yeah, Moyes was without doubt the right appointment. I mean, I did believe it was the case at the time. I was, I wouldn't say desperate, but out of the names that were being touted, he for me was the outstanding candidate. I know that not all Evertonians were the same, and I wouldn't criticise them.
I was one of them. I remember I think I was speaking to you, and I just said, I don't know, because, and I was focused on, he didn't do well at Sunderland, he didn't do well abroad, and then you were saying, well, forget what West Ham fans are saying, if you look at it subjectively, he's done a good job there, we'd kill for that at the minute. And I had that, like, we're Everton and we should be better than what West Ham, and you were very practical and said, no, that could be the first.
I've been there before as well. I remember the last time it was rumoured before we got Ancelotti, and I was like, no, like, at the moment we're better than that. I think we were. I mean, obviously it's hindsight is a beautiful thing, and you know, maybe even then it would have been the better thing, but at that time and with some of the names that were on the table and some of the opportunity we still had, you know, some wind in ourselves, we still had potentially money to spend and all that. But at this moment in time, and again, just going back to the comments I made then, I think it's about the right person at the right time. And given the context of it being the last season at Goodison, the fans desperate for just some optimism and needing there to be someone at the helm who had that association with the club and knew what the stadium meant to the club and knew what the fans were about. I think that was exactly what the club needed. And the new owners needed that. They needed to be focusing on the stadium and everything needs to be done with that, and all the commercial sides of the club, the structure. The last thing you need is panic at the bottom as well. And
they couldn't put money in January. The last thing that they could do was go, we need a new project starting today.
So they needed someone who could go, I can work with that. And that was the biggest thing for me. I looked at that squad and thought, there's a lot of players there that will tick boxes for Moyes. You know, it's a solid defence, and And fair play to Sean Dyche, and Moyes referenced that when he came in. He said, look, this is a dream for me to come into a team that can keep clean sheets.
Yeah, but they were fit, weren't they? So Dyche has since said on TalkSport on his show, I said to David that the fit, they just need a new voice now. They've checked out with me. And what I forgot about Moyes is I look back at his first era, and he was sort of game specific. I remember sometimes he'd played Victor Anichibi right mid, and you'd be like, why? He'd play that Neville and Carsley midfield. You'd be like, why? But it got points. He's doing it now. If you look at the Newcastle game, he drops McNeil for Harrison, and Everton win. And Dyche weren't doing that. Dyche had his team.
And you know what the other thing as well, and Moyes was certainly capable of doing this, and it's classic the way I think he used to use Victor, because we were talking about him in WhatsApp the other day. Is like some games, as you say, he play with the nines, plays the nines. Sometimes he play in the right. Sometimes he'd be on the bench, and he was going to bring him in after 60 minutes, no matter what. Yeah. And he's done that a couple of times with McNeil and in Dyche, where he's either played them or not played them, brought them on. Jack Harrison seems to have been used as like he knows what he's getting. It's just consistency. He's going to keep it tight. He's going to run up and down. You know,
follow instructions.
Exactly. And then it's bang, right? Now we bring on the players who are going to win us the game. So, unlike Dyche, and we go back to the comments I made about him just only having this plan A, Moyes has got his planners A and B ready. Straight away. And he goes, the game's going to either go this way or that way. If it goes this way, then this person comes in at that time. If it goes that way, I might have to bring them in a bit earlier, or I might have to bring someone else in a bit earlier. So and that comes obviously with experience, but I think it comes from experience now of managing multiple teams that are playing in different competitions against different styles of football.
Yeah.
You know, he's had it in his first spell at Everton in the Europa League, etc. He's had it, and briefly in the Champions League. He has at West Ham in the Europa League and the Conference League, and managing those fixtures and managing a squad of 18, 20 players is very different to what Sean Dyche wanted, which was almost a squad of 14 players to just continuously play the same way. And his methodology, in my opinion, Dyche, is, I know that if I get these 14 players playing in a strict way, they will get enough points over the course of the season. You're going to have peaks and troughs, because there's going to be times when they'll go a bit stale. But if they keep playing that way, they will get to 40 points. And unfortunately, that's not what we wanted as a club.
No. I think everything you said there, spot on. I think Dyche was like 16's a great season for me. I'll go to Ibiza and celebrate that. Where we're a bit like, well, can't you push? Can't we beat Liverpool? Can't we do this? Can't we do that?
Can we be a bit more progressive? Yeah.
Can we have more excitement? And look, Moyes' team, the Everton team, since January to May have put over 30 points on the board. Doesn't take Einstein to say that's 60 over the season. Doesn't take a genius to go, that puts you in contention for European football. Not that I'm getting too excited. I'm saying this just, I want you to assess the job that he's done in your eyes from January to May.
He's done a phenomenal job. I don't think anyone in football, you know, journalists, Everton fans, Liverpool fans, would deny he's done a phenomenal job. And I think Liverpool fans would probably be the first ones to say, because a lot of them had optimism that we were going down. A lot of them, not all of them, a lot of them were mocking the fact we were having to bring David Moyes in. Some Liverpool fans who I know were like, David Moyes is your man, he's exactly what you need. But going back to it, and it's obviously not about Liverpool, but it's probably a reflection of where we were when we brought him in. I just think he's done pretty much everything right. I can only count. I can't even get to the end of this one hand to count the moments where maybe he's misread a particular situation, or he's made a mistake with a player. To pick up that group of players the way he has and almost judge them perfectly in terms of their capabilities, to get so much out of almost every single one of the players is utterly remarkable. You know, the last thing I said before Sean Dyche left, in terms of the thing I was most disappointed with, is that there was probably only one or two players that improved while he was manager. They were Branthwaite and maybe three, if you include Tarkowski. Branthwaite, Tarkowski and Pickford were the only players who improved. And that was because they were in that kind of solid base and whatever, and they were familiar with each other. Everybody else, I think, struggled or either got worse or plateaued. You look around at that squad now, and if we go from, you know, the first 11, Pickford has been just as solid, and we'll come on to obviously the players of the season later. Michalenko's improved. I mean, that cross for the goal at Newcastle is testimony.
Better.
We're going to go. I'm going to go through the team here. So Michalenko has, I think, got 3 assists or 2 assists. He hadn't had an assist in like 14 months coming up to that point.
Yeah.
The fullbacks that have come in, Jake O'Brien, wow, the improvements he's made.
There's rumours in January that he was looking at, I've made the wrong call, yeah.
Can't wait to go. Yeah, can't wait to go.
And Beto.
Yeah, Guy has been brilliant. James Garner's has a new lease of life. Jack Harrison has looked better. Lindstrom has obviously suffered with injuries.
Decore's been okay as well.
Yeah, Decore's he's chipped in, hasn't he? He's chipped in with important goals.
Moyes liked him. You could just see Moyes did like him, what he brought. With Decore, he brought both sides of the game. You could see his legs were going, but he was still a Moyes player, and Moyes trusted him.
Yeah, exactly. And there are, as I said before, there are so many players in that squad that have got Moyes characteristics, and he certainly wouldn't have been disappointed with the squad he picked up. And Dyche, I mean, we've seen Dyche, Jake O'Brien, Beto are probably the three players that instantly you're like, wow, he's give them a new lease of life here. I mean, Dyche was playing 40 yards higher up the pitch. Instantly, he's getting shots on goal as opposed to playing a pass from the defensive third into the middle third.
Well, he's in that rotating three, isn't he? So under Dyche, he was almost a left wing back, wasn't he? It was like you can attack at times, but your job is to help Mykolenko. I noticed at the Southampton game and also the Ipswich game that the three behind the striker were rotating. Osman, Arteta, Pienaar-esque, where you'd sometimes find Ndiaye in the pocket, sometimes he'd be on the right, sometimes on the left.
They're all taking turns to join the forwards, aren't they? Yeah, and you're right, that rotation. And again, like, you could say it's lucky. I mean, we're going to come on to it in a moment, but you could say, actually, the recruitment from Everton hasn't been that bad. The players have just not been used well. And if you think about those 5 players that have rotated, I know Lindstrom has suffered with injuries, but Jack Harrison, Alcaraz, Lindstrom, Decore, and Dyche. The five of them not bad players.
No.
They're not bad players.
Not at all.
And they've all chipped in, all 5 of them. Even in the first few games, you know, Lindstrom put more crosses in the box. I think it was the second, Moyes' first game at home where we lost to Chelsea.
No, he lost at home to Villa, and then we had Tottenham on a Sunday, and he hit the bar for like 25 yards with like a run. Where's that player been? Well,
Lindstrom in that first game, though, I think he put 18 crosses into the box, which is more crosses than anyone.
And Lewin missed the sitter at the end of the street end, you're right.
Yeah. So, again, I think all those players that have played in those positions, and they've all played pretty much in every position across the 3, all contributed and all got better under David Moyes. You know, Beto, we don't need to say any more about his goals return, says it all. You know, and it'll be interesting still to see what happens with him in the summer, but he looks like a player who's growing on Moyes now, and like a player who's probably growing in his own confidence naturally with the goals he's got. But yeah, I think that's, for me, the biggest, you know, compliment you can give Moyes is he's made almost every player to a man better, and he's picked up a remarkable amount of points. So you couldn't ask for more. And that third kind of tick in the box is he's got the fans loving coming the game again, and getting behind the players, and you've got the young players who are again adoring those players on the pitch because they're giving them something back. Yeah,
no, well put. This feels bad saying this because of where we were last season, but secondary to all of that is we were taken over by the Friedkin group. So rumours in the summer, very strong rumours, exclusivity agreements with the Friedkins. Dan Friedkin walked away for whatever reason. 777 were in and out of every court and crooks and all that. They were just, we were thinking, we need to get out of this. John Texter, who's got a big stake in Crystal Palace, is on Sky Sports News talking about Sean Dyche playing Jake O'Brien. And you're like, where's all this coming from? Friedkin's come back.
Right, anyway.
Yeah, well, Friedkin's coming. The winds of change are sweeping. We no longer do we have a director of football. That model has gone. We now have a chief executive officer. Angus Kinnears came in, and he will work beside David Moyes, and our head of recruitment has gone. He will be replaced. The women's team have seen massive investment, and they've even now moved into the only stadium for a women's game. Our new stadium, whether you like the name or not, is now providing income. Before the men set foot in it. It's providing income now, it's been named. How would you reflect on the job they've done since coming in? Because they just seem to be like they mean business.
The business owners, aren't they? The businessmen. And they're clearly used to running and maximising sports, you know, franchises or clubs, whatever you're going to call them, particularly in the States. They know the order of things. This is a priority list. This is what we need to work through. it's common when businesses get taken over, because I've been in this situation on both sides, that you'd have like a 12-month plan, and it's like, these are the things that we're going to work through over the first 12 months, and they're going to be the key indicators as to whether we're going to be successful going forward. And you can clearly see there's a strategic way of going about things. What I can also see, and I'm certain that will have been their influence in some way, shape or form, the fan channel, the channels, social media are a lot more informative. The fans are finding out things. They're not, what's going on here, what's going on with that. I mean, even the other day, to see the list of players who are not being, signed, but then at the bottom, but also the club are continuing talks with Alcaraz. Yeah. That in the past would not have happened.
Well, do you know what that is for me? That's the right information at the right time. So sometimes you'd get Moshiri spinning stuff off, and Bill Kenwright would spin stuff off, and you'd be like, you aren't making sense here. Like, we don't need to know that he's a fighting, or we don't need to know about your personal opinion on something. The Freakins are just giving us what we need to know, and when they think we should know it.
Yeah, I would say they are, yeah. And the best thing is, you're not hearing from, as you just said, from Dan Freakin. He's feeding the messages through the appropriate channels. Those messages are then being managed, and they're being put out in the right way. And, we've seen it from the fan engagement team. They're a lot more proactive now. I just think, from a senior management point of view, a comms point of view, a commercial point of view, we're doing the right things and making the right moves, and the club's clearly going in the right direction.
They've clearly got, off the pitch for now, they've clearly got high standards, because we know a couple of lads who work at Ballymore. We're not going to name them, but they work there, and we heard that when the Friedkins looked at Bramley-Moore, me and you were like that wide-eyed looking at it. They said not good enough. Like, the interior of the concourses needs to change. This is our shopping malls. This is where that bar's better than that bar, so someone pays tenner to get it in on a match day, and that should be a mini megastore over there. We should maximise the space. And you're thinking, wow, that makes so much sense. And then the women, they addressed the women's team at Finch Farm, give them a lot of hope, and said, we're invested in you. They're moving into Goodison Park. It just seems like they've got high standards.
They seen it at Roma's, didn't they? They seen that by investing in the whole club from top to bottom. Academy, men's, women, they'll get a return on investments, and they know they'll get a return on investments. If you look at the demographic of Everton fans, without being, condescending or sexist in any way, it's probably 90%, 95% male. They know that they can engage the female fan base, and maybe engage more fans and encourage them to go to the women's games. They're going to get more fans, more following, more income, more revenue. There's revenue opportunities on the women's. They know the growth of the women's game is huge globally, so there's opportunities there. So
they're putting money into Goodison as well. It's not like they leave. Like, we know a little bit. We know rumours that maybe long term they want to rotate the pitch, and they want to make a mini bowl. We've seen how it'll look next season, where they're going to taper off the balcony, the upper Gladys and the Bullens, and they're going to keep it as a mini bowl in the park ends. But then what comes with that is we're investing into Goodison Park as well. It's going to be there forever, and we want to make it look how it should look. That Bramley-Moore one, where what if fans can't get into the megastore? It's too busy. There should be a mini megastore in every concourse. That's where you buy your shirt for your little boy because you can't queue or you're late. Yeah, well, all it's thinking is like,
again, the building Bramley-Moore, like, an elite sporting event space. So I went to fortunate enough that my wife took me to the Monaco Grand Prix at the weekends, and it's exactly that. You're never far from somewhere to buy merchandise. You're never far from somewhere to buy a drink.
Take someone's money.
Buy something to eat. Yeah, exactly. You don't want to miss out on those opportunities, and again, that's what's encouraging. I mean, we're hearing the rumours, and this has not been validated, that Everton are asking for a delayed opening of Bramley-Moore with the Premier League
because of the work we're doing on it.
Because of the work they're doing it, because they want it to be as good as it can be. So yeah, listen, just back to the actual crux of the question. I think
pleased with them.
Pleased, yeah, very pleased, and I think the most encouraging thing is we're not hearing loads of talk and no action. It's the other way around. They're cracking on with things, and you can see it, and that's what pleases the fans. You're not having to ask questions because it's just happening.
Yeah,
before you've even thought of it, it's done. And I think the quiet work they're doing off the pitch will pay us dividends long term. But the subtle work they're doing, if you like, on the pitch in terms of giving the manager, enough capacity to work, allowing him to do his thing, and trying to put some infrastructure above him for when we need it, I think is clever and shrewd.
Yeah. We've spoke a little bit there about Goodison and Bramley Moore. We didn't do an instant match reaction purposely after the Southampton game because we were just with our families and we just wanted to. I think you went for a few drinks with people you've always gone to match with. I went to like a children's event with my little boy and stuff, and we just didn't do one. But let's talk about it a little bit now. That day, we hugged each other on the pitch at the end, and we had a nice moment. I'm glad we never got a photo of that, really, to be honest. But just for the listeners, the followers, what was it like for you that day at Goodison?
Yeah, I feel like I've spoke about this so many times now as well, and I'm sorry. Not like I'm gonna try my best to do it justice.
Did it feel big when you woke up that day and stuff? Did it feel like I've got to make the most of this?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was like a really packed weekend for me. So I took my daughter camping. They just had like the SATs. The year sixes had the SATs the week before, so we took my daughter camping. And then we came back the night before. She had a cup final first thing in the morning, so I was excited anyway because like my daughter had a cup final. Yeah. So it was a proper footy day for me. But then that game finished, and obviously the attention turned to the Everton game, and my dad had came to the final. So we were heading up to the game at 10 o'clock-ish. And I think the best indication of how big the game was visible when you were getting closer to the game, and there were just as many people walking away from the stadium as there were walking towards it. There was a notable thousands and like tens of thousands of people that had come to the game and didn't have tickets, but they just wanted to be there. And it was an occasion, it was a special occasion. I've said numerous times that the actual match itself was something of a formality or a sideshow that we just wanted to get out the way because there was a bigger purpose.
You said on our Goodison Park show, you said there's a couple of tick boxes and it's win, let us see James Coleman.
Yeah, that's it. And you said
for the match itself, I mean.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And I've said, I think the best kind of, this is going to sound a bit morbid, but you'll get it as soon as I say it. It's a bit like going to a funeral, and it's like the game was a bit like the service. People are like, all right, we've got to do the service, but then you want to get the send off. Then you want to really pay tribute, and you want to sing songs, and you want to hug people. You want to get obviously don't get pictures in it, but you want to talk to people about it. You want to talk about memories. You want to share stories.
You want to see the old people, old friends that you don't
exactly,
see.
Yeah, all that. So you want to see your friends and family that you haven't seen for a while, all those cousins that unfortunately you only see at events like that. So it was like the game was something you just wanted. You wanted to go well. You wanted it to be fitting. Yeah. And you wanted the priest to say the right words. And when Dyche turned up and done his business and got the goals, and that allowed us to then just to really pay tribute and to really enjoy the remainder of the day. But yeah, just going up to the stadium and obviously all of the pyro, everyone had blue faces.
I've seen a picture of that kid who's just blue. Yeah, just blue. Stands there like that. What's going on?
Yeah, everyone still had like blue in the hair for like until like Wednesday or something.
I was there before you. I went down because I wanted to get Noah's breakfast and stuff, and Wetherspoons. There was no chance. You walked in Wetherspoons and it was like 8:30 in the morning. And I thought this is really early, but 12 o'clock kickoff, queue outside the door.
Yeah, I seen. Well, the Wetherspoons were right by my dad's, and
then I took him to the fan zone. He got a little bit frightened at the coach welcome for the Liverpool game, so I said, "We'll go to the fan zone and we'll stand there." I just said to the lad next to me who didn't know, "Can you imagine if we were good?"
Yeah.
Like what? Like it was just mayhem. The Peter on the 1878 was on top of the hot walk, flag, flares, songs, and the coach couldn't get to Goodison Road. Had to go somewhere else, and then it was just. In the ground for half time when the gates opens, queue for food, queue for the pints. You go to Wembley, it was like that.
Well, what one of the lads who sits by me, Louis, said, "Can't be arsed with us being good. I'd rather us be crap and just have a nice, convenient, no queues, a nice gentle stroll to the course."
But the atmosphere in there was amazing. The fans, I know the 1878 who we're going to give big praise to, they organised the coach welcome and they rightly said we want to go to our seat for this and we want to be with our mates. So it was on the everyday match fan to create an atmosphere, and boy was it created.
You know what, again, I know it was a small thing and all that, the scarves were a great
nice touch.
Like everyone just walking around with the scarves all day. Do you know what I mean? I had mine on till 1 a.m, I think.
How boss of the ground looking blue?
It did. It was so good. And we're not a scarf waving fan base, and it wasn't about that. Everyone just had them on, didn't he?
Yeah.
But it did create, as you say, that proper unity. Everyone was together. And And
just singing non-stop.
Non-stop, yeah. And it was, you know, all the players were kind of getting different turns, weren't they, you know, of a song. It was just...
Special day.
It was, yeah. And it was like every time you look somewhere, you made eye contact with someone and you wanted to go, all right, you know, and like have a little hug or a little, you know, handshake or a high five. So there was just so many moments like that. And yeah, again, we said it, I think it counted when we done that goodness episode. I must have said special about 15 times. I've tried to not say special, yeah, but it was unique, and it was a really emotional day, and one that I'll remember for a long time.
Yeah, look, anyone who watches this podcast knows that we're a support of the women's team, so the likelihood is that we do return there. Well, definitely we do return there to support the women. It's just it's never going to be that again, is it? It's never going to be
that. I don't want it to be that. You're right, we've said that. I don't want it to be that. And I
mean that because people say to me in my work, "Oh, you're going to go there next season," and I'm like, "No, you don't get it."
No, it's not. It's not the same, though, is it? And we're not saying this to be disrespectful to the women, as though we go, they're not going to be as good or whatever. It's just not. The people who we go the match with will not be there. You know what I mean? Yeah. The routine of the match will not be the same.
And the support for the women's game at the minute is smaller than it is for the men's.
Yeah, it is much smaller, yeah, and that's not being disrespectful. That's just the reality. Yeah. So it's just not. It won't have the same draw and the same appeal and the same feeling to it, and that's right, because the women should, you know, the women will want to create their own legacy. They won't want to be, the women are here now after the men. They'll want Goodison in 10, 20 years to be known as something different.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting, actually, and I don't think they'll ever do that, but it'd be interesting if they physically change the name at some point to go, well, we need to give this its own identity.
If they name it, if they want to name it something. Then
I think that would be appropriate, because that really does define it as something different.
Yeah.
I think it does deserve a new start.
It's crazy. It's crazy for me in a good crazy that Goodison remains, and I'm almost as excited to see how that evolves.
I think you go back to the funeral thing. I think it's like a reincarnation.
Yeah.
It's like its second life, isn't it? You know, you've had your first life, and this is what it was about, and we've put that behind us, and we've paid respect to it. It's now a new beginning for it. So I think it's more of a reincarnation of that area, and again, it is for the area. So, you know, we'd like to think in 10 years' time that the women are getting significant attendances and ones that keep, you know, some of those businesses alive as well, and it becomes a routine for the fans to follow the women as much as it's a set routine for the fans to follow the men.
No, well put. We're going to end it on a few normal questions, best goals, but I know you want to say thank you, because you said on the Goodison Park video, engage, give us your best memories. If we're talking about Duncan and you've seen Alan Ball, talk about Alan Ball in the comments. And you text me a number of times that week going, have you seen how many comments?
It was so good, you know. Yeah. And we say this all the time, please leave us a comment, and we try to reply. I think we replied to most of those, even if it was just like a heart or a thumbs up or whatever. But it was so heartwarming to see all of the comments, all of the stories.
You put an effort into telling us their
stories. Yeah, and you know what? I'd like to think that makes, you know, the experience of watching and following our podcast a bit more significant, because, you know, every comment does matter to us and every opinion, and whether we give you a really detailed response or just thumbs up or that, believe me, we read them, and we do enjoy them and appreciate them.
There was some that were just like so special. You could feel the emotion in some of them comments, and that's what's special. And
another one as well on that note, going back to the last game of Goodison, I met so many people that day who you know, praised the podcast and watched that Goodison tribute, and honestly, I'm terrible with names anyway. There was a lad I spoke to in the Barlows, and we had a really good chat at the bar, and it's going to kill me. So please, if you're watching this, give us a comment and tell us your name, because again, your names is I've lost it. I'll probably remember it later.
No, I'm the same. Some lad came over to me in the park end, kissed me. I said, tell Colin Flood I'm a better footy player than him. So please, if you're watching this, leave your comment, because I didn't get your name. It was just chaos, but that comment stuck with me, which is funny.
But yeah, again, it really is appreciated. And again, with this episode, if you know, we're going to talk about, we spoke about Sean Dyche, we spoke about David Moyes' impact, we spoke about the Freegans, Goodison, you know, the new stadium, a lot of subjects that people will have opinions on. It's always great to hear your comments. Absolutely fine if you don't agree with us. That's what footy's about, particularly.
It's even better.
It is even
that's what
better.
riles us to reply.
No, yeah, not always riles us. It definitely gets us going. But yeah, please leave your comments, because, you know, they are appreciated, and they are they're definitely observed, and a lot of the time they give us some moments of reflection. So thanks.
These questions are designed for you to get involved in the comments. I'm going to let Judge answer first. I'm going to go, and then we'd love you to get involved. Everton's best goal this season was?
Tarkowski's against Liverpool.
Yeah.
At the Gladys Street. I don't think anyone... I mean, you can talk about goals that were maybe more... I don't know. I wouldn't even say aesthetically pleasing, because it was a great strike. But, you know, like, you know, good move and whatever. But, you know, in terms of the significance of the goal, the timing of it, you just could not.
Yeah.
You couldn't top that goal, could you?
No, I certainly have not got another one to that. The pressure on that team to go toe to toe with the best team in the country at the minute, and not lose, because the fans are so demanding that this is the last one here. And
it was a mandate of one Goodison.
Yeah, oh yeah, most wins are Goodison.
Yeah, we ended, and we'd have took the tie at that point. So yeah, we could not allow them to get away with most wins at Goodison, and it would have been another banner probably that these have had in their away ends for years, that, you know, we won Goodison or whatever. So
when you look back at that night, like, my little boy's a killer for watching videos back all the time, and like the scenes that followed, where there was Curtis Jones into Corey, like there's blue flares, Arne Slot loses his head, Beto's running around like
the corner flag.
Colin's got the corner flag. Beto's like a dog off a leash. He's running around, jumping like we'd won.
Yeah.
It was just mad that night, wasn't it? Like,
it was, yeah.
I don't know. It's just
the players on both teams knew how important that game was.
Yeah.
Obviously, there was still significance for Liverpool, because they wanted to take one step closer to the title. There was still a number of players in that dressing room who have got friends who you know, who remind them of, you know, Everton stopped you from winning the league in this season, that season. They really wanted that win to go, you know, we won the league, Goodison Park and all that. Obviously, it being the last derby at Goodison, there was so many factors there that made that night pivotal for both teams, and it was a game that you didn't want to lose as much as wanted to win, which is why, as we've joked about in our various WhatsApp groups, that we call it like a 2-2 win.
The Tarkowski winner.
Yeah, the Tarkowski winner.
But the noise when that went in, it was incredible.
It was, yeah. And it's like, you look at when the camera pans over to Liverpool fans, and there's just utter shock, and they're just like, oh no.
And then we VAR check.
Oh yeah, and that was them like few
7 minutes that check took.
It was a long time, wasn't it? This is the most Everton thing ever. That would have killed me. But yeah, I don't think anyone's disagreeing with that one. So I think we can probably just scratch that as being, without doubt, the best goal of the season.
I'll allow you to name a few, but I'm going to pinpoint you to stick with one player of the season.
Okay, I will name a few. Everyone knows that I've been opinionated about this player so many times, but the song and how viral it's become for Evertonians says how much the fan base, you know, utterly adore him and are grateful for everything he's done. Jordan Pickford has been phenomenal again this season. He's become a leader, and I think someone who the fans look to, even the new managers look to. He still frustrates the life out of me with his behaviour sometimes, but you can't, as I say, underestimate how valuable he's been, and you would have to say pound for pound, probably one of the best signings we've ever made. You know, he's up there now in some people's eyes, not for trophies and all that performances with Nev, in terms of how, you know, pivotal he's been to the team in a very difficult period. He wouldn't quite get my vote. You've got to mention Jake O'Brien for his improvement, but it's only been probably a third or a quarter of the season. Iliman Ndiaye's been a revelation in his first season. Beto, almost single-handedly. At one point, it looked like single-handedly it kept us up.
Out, yeah.
I thought Guy was so consistent again. There was so many games where he was the best player, but there was also so many games that he was just at that level. I think there was very few occasions that he dropped below. a certain level. My vote, though, Jared Brandtwaite again deserves another mention. Another very solid season, another season that I think his stock has risen. Some great performances. Even in the game at Anfield where Liverpool beat us, he was probably the best player on the pitch for us. My vote again, though, goes back to James Tarkowski. I just think as a leader, and his absence is so notable. I think more so than Brandtwaite when Tarkowski doesn't play.
Yeah.
Even in like a load of these statistical websites that go around now, he's one of the highest rated players that we've got on our books. That goal probably tipped it for me to make him player of the season.
Well, you saw when he went off against City that game, and we went from going toe to toe, Man City just holding on, falling apart.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a perfect example. I think that example, his goal, and the fact he's been so consistent with his appearances and his resilience to injury, and obviously playing through a lot of injuries, but his influence on the team in general. And I think the fourth best defence in the country. Obviously owed a lot to Pickford as well, but certainly as much to our captain and centre-back James Tarkowski. So he gets my vote.
It's nice to be able to debate who the player of the season is, because usually it's Pickford or it's Brandtwaite.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Pickford, Tarkowski, Idrissa Gana Gueye are so close, all three for me. I'm going to go with the man I am desperate that we keep, Idrissa Gana Gueye. I think he's in like this Indian summer of getting better as he gets older. He's 35. He's going to be 36, hopefully playing for Everton next season. And there's not many 35, 36-year-olds that I'm saying, just give him what he wants. Because you can't lose him. He's so valuable. And the miles and the minutes he's put in this season, I know sometimes the manager does withdraw him, I think sometimes to protect him for the next game, and he doesn't seem to like that. He walks off angry. He wants to be out there. He cares. He gives a crap about us. And I just think he's a top player. For me, I'd give it to Guy.
I couldn't disagree with that. I've always loved just a kind of guy. And if you talk about a man of the century, or a man of the last 20 years, he's up there. Now, he obviously left the club for a few seasons, but you talk about, again, pound for pound. If it's pound for pound in terms of what we've signed him for, he's got to be the best signing we've made in the last 20 years by a distance. And the service he's given to the club has been incredible. I think just going back to that whole, he's 35, and I agree. Obviously, he's 35. Ages, it's chronologically he's in the twilight of his career, but he just looks after himself so well. He's so lean, doesn't drink. Yeah. All them things. His lifestyle is. I think the lifestyle is a huge factor here. Yeah. We talk about players that we've had at 35. I mean, I don't know how old Lee Carsley was towards the end.
I think he went just a bit before that, Carsley.
But no disrespect, Carsley leads a very different lifestyle to Idrissa Gana Gueye. So I think that's a huge factor. I still think Guy has got another 2 or 3 years because he's so fit and, again, so resilient to it. He hasn't had many major injuries. And, again, he lives the absolute perfect life when it comes to preparing, to rehabilitating and to prehabilitating, as in avoiding injury. So he deserves huge credit for that. But I couldn't agree with more. Tactically, technically, all the boxes, he would be a player that I think Moyes would be desperate to keep. I
hope so. I really, really hope that he's at Bramley-Moore next year. What's been the most surprising moment of the season? Stuff that you've maybe gone, didn't expect that. Good or bad?
It was probably has to be Jake O'Brien's, turnaround. I mean, we've compared it a few times to the way he used Lescott and the way he used Yobo, so maybe we shouldn't be surprised that utilising what looks like a centre-back and maybe a more natural centre-back, full-back first to bed him in. But not only does he take to the job defensively and become an integral part of that solid back four, chipping in with goals as well.
I know.
He just became just an absolute, nailed on first name on the team sheet so quickly. So
imagine being a left back and he's running at you.
It's mad, isn't it? It's like the Dan Burn, Newcastle, isn't it? It just looks odd, and it's really hard to play against
the goals he scored at the back post. You almost see the left back going like, I need one of the centre halves to come and deal with him.
Well, again, you look back at David Moyes' first spell, and there was a season when he had like Steve Watson and Kevin Kilban playing off the wings, because they were just hitting diagonals, and it was like teams it's just unorthodox, isn't it? So for me, that is the most surprising. I mean, I think all Everton fans had faith that he was better than what Sean Dyche was giving him credit for in terms of lack of minutes and opportunities, but nobody believed that he could be as effective as he was. So I think that would be the most surprising moments of the season for me.
Yeah, I mean, I would go with that, but the only other one that comes quite close is I didn't see the run of form Beto was going to hit. I just didn't see that.
True.
Like in January, he was getting pictured in the airport going to Italy. He was getting loans out perhaps, and we weren't saying, no, don't. And now we're sort of saying, could he actually be the number 9 for next season? Or we'll link with players, that's a different podcast. But I certainly wouldn't be unhappy if Beto led the line at the start of next season for us. And that's like,
no,
I was nowhere near that.
No, he's improved. He's improved remarkably. And look, he's clearly been coached.
Yeah.
And he's clearly a player who wants to learn. There's no questioning his work ethic, his attitude. And I think maybe Moyes is seeing that. I do know that, from people, he is a player that Moyes took a while to kind of take to in terms of his style of football and the attributes he hasn't got. But he's working at them. I mean, you look at the goal that we scored at the weekend, and the goal we scored at Fulham. He is getting better at holding the ball up. Obviously, he showed at Chelsea that he's still not polished when it comes to just retaining the ball and doing the basics better. But you cannot knock his goal return, as per the minutes he's played. You cannot knock how difficult he makes the game for the opposing defenders.
Our Liverpool mate said after the Anfield derby, like he caused Van Dijk and Kanati chaos. Like they didn't know who to mark, what he was going to do.
So I think, and that's the balance for him now. Can he retain that kind of chaotic,
So it's the nature of players that we plays, yeah.
Yeah, can he maintain that whilst also being consistent with his back to goal?
Yeah.
Because if he can start to just be that person that we can hit, hold the ball up, win a foul, lay the ball off, but then also when we need him to be, just playing off the shoulder and running in different directions. Because it's hard to be that player, but also be a player that it's easy for the midfielders to pick out because they know where he's going to run.
Yeah.
Because once they know where he's going to run, then analysis is that good these days that the opposition know what he's going to do as well. Yeah. So I think that'll be interesting to see if he can still be as effective whilst also being more orthodox.
What's been some of the more downbeat moments last season? Times where you've gone, oh, this is not good, or reflecting on maybe a player's form or what you. I mean, for me, I'll give you mine so you can maybe see where I'm going. Moment-wise, I was bad after when Bournemouth beat us away. That was the game that Dyche gave up, basically.
Yeah. And
the comments that came out going, oh, the run wouldn't be that bad if we had wins, you'd had wins to it. And all of that was a mess. A lot of players are disappointed in Nathan Patterson's season again. He always seems to be one. I'm saying, I'd love you to... Is this the season? Even now, half me's going, is he next season's player? It's the third season I'm saying this now. Dominic Calvert-Lewin's brought nothing to the table. Like, it's so disappointing to the noise that's happened to Lewin and his partner on socials. And if you follow our podcast and you are inboxing a player's wife threatening their kids, unfollow us. You don't speak for us at all. We don't condone that. But I'm still allowed to say I'm disappointed in what he's brought this season. Them three for me would be where I'd go.
Dominic Calvert-Lewin was the direction I was going on, and it was going to be for both sides of it. I think, one, disappointed that he's not got the goal return that he should, given the fact that he's been fit a lot longer. He's been given the opportunity now. People criticise the style of play under Sean Dyche. He was still missing chances. He was missing chances on a consistent basis.
One on Sunday. One-on-one Sunday again.
And the second one, it was on the back of that. The second one is he's not, as a result, got the send-off that some other players have got. Now, it should have been, for me, from a contract position and from all that, it should have been resolved. It should have been, look, we're going to move on. The club and Dominic feel it's the right time. And regardless of the goals and all that, he's come up with some big moments for the club in derbies and, in the game against Palace. So he's played his part. Now, he's not been the number 9 that we've wanted him to be, but he's been a long-term servant to this club and he's put a lot of effort and a lot of blood on that shirt to try and...
For 1.5 million, he's been a good signing for Everton.
Without doubt. So they're the two disappointing things. Is one, that he's not kicked on again, but even after he did, there should have been more of a, mutual partner of ways, and it shouldn't have got to the point that it did. Because that's where it come from, and whether you agree with her, his partner's stance or not, she done it because she was frustrated and felt hurt that Everton and the fans had not recognised them. And I get it, but it's because of the fact that there's been so much friction behind the scenes and so much contradiction. You know, the club apparently made him an offer that's been taken away because he hasn't signed it. He's not really said anything apart from the fact, I'd like to go into Bramley-Moore, but then has not really backed that up with signing a contract. So I think the whole thing has been a unfortunate sour end to his Everton career. And again, take the goals out of it. He served the club well, and he should have deserved as much as like the likes of Decore, and it got it at the end. He had that wave and all that. Look, he's moving on, and I think in other circumstances, had the money been better and had he been more inclined to take what was on, he would have signed a contract. But I think Everton fans are grown up enough to accept that sometimes the circumstances aren't right, and I think that the timing this season would have been perfect to just move on with both sides being, complementary of each other.
Yeah, I agree. You've mentioned James Tarkowski. We've mentioned the last game at Goodison. Any other best moments to have from last season? May even watching an away game. I mean, for me, we went to Ireland to our mate Neil, didn't we, to surprise him, and we watched the Brighton win in Ireland as a big group of Evertonians.
Yeah, it was.
And we were on the Guinness, and we were singing Everton songs in this Irish pub.
Yeah,
that's what being a fan's about.
Yeah, definitely. Trying to think of it, that definitely is a highlight, because it was for his birthday, and it was all the lads out, wasn't it?
Another one for me, and this it might sound weird. The half-time pint, 3-0 up against Tottenham in Moyes' second game back. The David Moyes songs, 3-0 up. Like, it hasn't been like this.
David Moyes returning was a big, and I know we've spoken about it before. And maybe for some people it was a little bit of a anti-climb, or wasn't maybe the appointment that people wanted the club to make. But when he walked on that pitch, I really got that nice feeling again, and you could. The warm feeling of someone in charge. Yeah, safe, warm, like a big hug off you.
Yeah. I feel better now.
Yeah. I feel like got someone here who really understands us, gets us. That would definitely be another highlight for me. I think of any of the others really. No, I think that's.
I like unfortunate circumstances, but I liked the reception Seamus Coleman got when he was subbed.
Oh.
And he waved, and you sort of going, are we seeing the last here? And that felt nice. If that is your goodbye, that was a nice goodbye. He was the centrepiece of that big £10 programme. And if you read what he was saying, he's in love with the club.
Yeah, he is. It was and go back to it. Yeah, I think the last season for Seamus Coleman, obviously he hasn't had as many minutes on the pitch, but I don't think in terms of the way it's finished, it could have ended up any better for him.
Yeah.
I'm sure he would have liked to have played longer, but you could see, it was that first run towards the park end where he tried to overlap. He went.
I remember it.
He broke down. I think we all expected that, and I think given the fact he hasn't played any minutes for so long, I think there was all a suspicion that he was going to break down as soon as he come on, and that's why Moyes had not played him earlier. Even that, like another manager, I don't think would have afforded Seamus Coleman that type of
there's some that wouldn't,
preparation. I think these have thought, well, no, you're going to start, we might just throw you on or whatever, but you're not going to be sitting on the bench every week. He was on the bench quite a few times.
We hadn't seen him in weeks, and the game before we beat Fulham away, he threw him on for the last 10 minutes. And it was like, let's just see if you've got it in you. And yeah, I think you're right. I think Moyes managed Seamus Coleman to that moment well, where. And I think he would have been subbed in that game anyway to get what he got. But when it happens, I just thought, I'm made up that he's getting that. It's
just a mention, and I'm not sure. I'm not saying it's like one of me, big happy moments of the season. But we haven't mentioned him in any other passages. I think Charlie Alcaraz has been a huge positive.
Yeah.
I think his personality, he really does love being in that blue shirt. I think he brings something different to the table. He's obviously got the last goal of the season, if you like, for us. I really hope we can get that deal done, because he feels like another proper Moyes player, but another player who I think is going to, like in Dyche, is going to get better.
I wrote these questions and I didn't prep for them, and we're talking and I'm thinking things, and I know we'd done the tribute show last summer and his death was last June, but Kevin Campbell's family on the pitch for the Bournemouth home game, and then the Arsenal fans, the Everton fans with a mosaic.
Forgot about that, yeah.
And then Tyrese Campbell comes out and he's saying nice things, how much it means. Singing Super Kevin Campbell
Yeah.
And knowing how special that man was to us as a fan base and to us as a podcast, that was a really great moment as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, and again, someone who's just embodied the club when he was here, has retained that love for the club and that respect for the fans. Someone who's came back to Goodison so many times and again always shows his appreciation. The fans always show their appreciation back. He's so gracious with his time. Has been with us, has been with other fans, is always the first person to put tributes out there and to offer well wishes to any fans who were not so well. So sad to obviously hear what he actually went through in his later days, and if there's anyone who didn't deserve that type of suffering, it was super Kev. So
to hear his name sung at Goodison Park again.
Yeah, it was lovely, yeah, and I'm sure his family appreciated that more, and again the Arsenal fans joined in as well when they were there. So yeah, they were nice moments, and again fitting that it we got that respect in the last season at Goodison. Another moment again was it was nice to hear like Duncan talking, on the pitch.
Yeah, Duncan is just, for me, like he's mine. Like he's just a special. I gravitate towards him even now. If I see him now, I'll probably hug him. Like he's got that, and I know a lot of other people have got that with him as well. And yeah, you're right to see Duncan back out there. It was nice to see the video of him coming out the house.
Yeah,
it's like Jesus has been risen, all jumping on him.
Yeah,
boss. No, I think we've reached the end of the season review. If I'd have said to you last August, on the eve of this season, Everton will be safe by March. David Moyes will be the manager. They have new owners with ambition. Bramley Moore's been named and it's ready. You've been to a test event. Is that a good season?
Great season. I mean, I said the start of the season in terms of expectations or hopes, I just want us to be in a safe, consolidated position.
Yeah.
I think, I was asked on another podcast to do like a predicted league table. I think I had us 12th. We finished 13th. 48 points is a significant improvement on the last few years. We obviously not got there maybe in the way we'd have liked to, but from an outcome point of view and from where we were at the start of the season, where we were at the end of the season, a better manager, a happier group of players, players in form and looking forward to next season. As you say, a stadium that's fit and ready, and money to spend.
For the first time in a long time, yeah. So,
and contracts that are the right contracts that we've ran down, significantly lower wage bill. So all of the metrics in terms of commerciality and optimism and opportunity and potential is all there, and that's the way you want to finish a season is being hopeful for the following season. I don't think it was ever a season, maybe extraordinary cup run aside, that we were expecting honours or we were expecting a real significant benchmark here.
Yeah.
It was a season that was just desperate for us to go into Bramley Moore in a stable position, and in a position that we can actually expect a bit more and be looking forward to more, and that's where we are. So yeah, I couldn't be happier. I obviously could, but
it's a good position.
I'm very satisfied. Yeah.
Me and Judgy probably taking a few weeks off going into the summer now. You've got plenty of other great podcasts to watch. We do absolutely love that you support the podcast. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your engagement this year with us. Thank you for coming over to us and speaking to us. Probably towards the tail end of the summer, we'll get back in and do some shows. If something breaks, we've got webcams. You know what I mean? Yeah. We can jump on remotely and do it. But on that basis, Judgy, that we're taking a bit of time off. Quickly, hopes for next season. What do you realistically? It's easy to say a cup, but realistically, what do you want to see?
I think pushing on into the top half, trying to knock on the door of those, whether it's Conference League places or whatever, trying to be in the mix with those 5 or 6 teams. Your Palace, Brentford, Brighton, all those teams that have kind of gravitated up and down between 12th and 8th. You want to be in that mix. I think there's potential for us to be in that mix. I think maybe some of them graduate into that next group, but I would like to just be there or thereabouts. As always, you would like to try and have as good a cup run as possible, and I'm certain that will be something that David Moyes will be determined to do, as he prioritised that in his first spell. So yeah, that's and I just want to see more goals, more players improving. Some of the younger players, if they're not our graduates, but some of the younger players. I mean, I'm certainly optimistic that we've got a couple that are come back from loan that might.
Yeah, Harrison Armstrong loved that derby.
Is without that, he was excellent at derby, and that's obviously not, you know, a massive step up for him. So I'd love to see him part of the squad in pre-season and hopefully get some games next season.
Yeah, good way to end it. A competitive, ambitious Everton team at Bramley Moore, making our kids want to go to the match to watch them.
Exactly. That's all we ask for.
That is all we ask for. It's not a lot. Thank you so much for watching the 24-25 season review. That is Gary Judge. I am Ian Mills. Enjoy your summer. Thanks for everything as always. Up the toffees.